Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at your document, English G5 fourth term.tdf. And, looks like it's a study guide for an 11-year-old, but I think we're going to find some really interesting stuff about language in here for all of us.
Yeah, it's funny how going back to basics can be so enlightening. No matter how much you think you know about language, there's always something new to discover.
It really is. It's like we're becoming language masters by going back to the fundamentals. So our first topic is back to basics. Pretty straightforward title.
Yeah, this section is all about those essential building blocks, nouns, verb tenses, punctuation, the stuff that makes communication clear and effective.
Okay, so here's something I learned in this section that I thought was interesting. Every sentence has to have a noun or a pronoun as its subject.
It's true. Every single sentence, it's like the foundation of a sentence. You need that noun or pronoun to give it a point of reference.
Yeah, so you're saying it's not just about grammar rules, it's about how we structure our thoughts.
Exactly. And speaking of nouns, the guide reminds us about the difference between common and proper nouns, which is something we use all the time without even thinking about it.
Right, like the difference between a cat and Garfield.
Exactly. One is general, the other is specific. And that distinction is important for clear communication.
It's like saying a city versus Paris makes a big difference.
Huge difference. And the guide actually asks us to think about this. It says, can you identify 5 common nouns and 5 proper nouns in your immediate surroundings? It's like a little scavenger hunt for language nerds.
I love it. All right, are you ready for quiz time? This is where we tackle those quiz questions from the study guide.
Hit me with them.
All right, first question. What type of noun is Eiffel Tower?
Ooh, that's easy. It's a proper noun because it's the name of a specific landmark.
Okay, next one. What tense is the verb in the sentence, she will sing tomorrow?
That will gives it away. It's future tense.
Okay, last one. Which punctuation mark ends a question?
Let me think. Oh, I know. It's a question mark.
You got it. We aced the Back to Basics quiz. Now things are going to get a little more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Let's move on to topic 2, beyond the literal. This section is all about the difference between literal and figurative language.
Ah, yes. Figurative language, where words take on a life of their own.
Exactly. Literal language is straightforward. The words mean exactly what they say, like a news report or a scientific article.
Right. You want to be clear and precise in those contexts. But figurative language uses words in a more imaginative way to create images and evoke emotions.
Think poetry, song lyrics, even everyday expressions like raining cats and dogs. That's not literal, right?
Definitely not. It's a fun way to make language more vivid and engaging. And did you know that understanding the difference between literal and figurative language can actually help you appreciate literature and art more deeply?
It's like having a secret decoder ring for unlocking deeper layers of meaning.
Exactly. Now, the guide throws out a challenge here. It asks, can you create your own simile or metaphor?
Ooh, that's a good one.
A simile uses like or as to make a comparison, while a metaphor makes a direct comparison without those words.
So it's time to get creative and play with language a bit.
Thank you.
Okay, ready for another round of quiz time?
Bring it on.
First question. Which sentence uses figurative language? The cat is black. Or the cat's fur was as dark as night.
Well, the first one is pretty straightforward, just stating a fact. But the second one uses as dark as night. That's a simile.
Exactly. Okay, next one is to sing. A finite or infinite verb.
Oh, verb terminology. Let's see. A finite verb has tense while an infinite verb doesn't. So to sing doesn't specify a time. It's an infinite verb.
Okay, that makes sense. Last question. What is the finite verb in this sentence? They're swimming in the pool.
Okay, the finite verb is are swimming. It tells us what they're doing and when they're doing it.
Great. I'm feeling pretty good about our language skills so far.
Me too. But we're just getting started. Let's move on to topic 3, the power of verbs. Because, let's face it, verbs are the heart of every sentence.
Couldn't agree more. Verbs bring sentences to life.
Right. They tell us what's happening, or even just what state of being something is in. And here's something that might surprise you. Verbs aren't always about action.
Wait, what? I thought verbs were all about doing stuff.
Well, words like to be, to seem, to feel, those describe states of existence rather than physical actions.
Oh, I see what you mean. So I am happy am is the verb, but I'm not actually doing anything.
Exactly. It's a subtle but important distinction.
So the guide has this think about this question that I thought was really interesting. What's the difference between a cat and the cat?
Ah, the power of articles. They can completely change the meaning of a sentence.
Right, a cat could be any cat. But the cat implies that we're talking about a specific cat that we both know.
It's all about context and shared understanding.
Okay, quiz time on verbs. First question, is dance a verb or a noun?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Dance can be both, depending on how it's used in a sentence.
You're right, if it's an action, it's a verb. If it's a thing, it's a noun.
Okay, next question. Identify the preposition in the sentence. The book is on the table.
Well, the preposition is on. It tells us the relationship between the book and the table.
Nice. Last one. What is the simple past tense of the verb walk?
That would be walked. Easy peasy.
You're on a roll. Now let's step into a realm where language gets a little more colorful and playful. Topic 4, Beyond Grammar Rules, where we'll be exploring idioms and proverbs.
Ooh, I love idioms and proverbs. They're like those little nuggets of wisdom and cultural insight.
They are, and they can be tricky for language learners because their meaning isn't always obvious from the individual words.
Like, did you know that kick the bucket means to die? It has nothing to do with buckets.
Right. Idioms can be so unexpected and funny, and proverbs offer concise expressions of advice or wisdom that have been passed down through generations.
It's like each culture has its own unique set of linguistic quirks.
And the guide highlights just how strange idioms can be with this question. What does break a leg mean?
Well, it means good luck, of course, which is the opposite of what the words literally suggest.
It's a great example of how idioms can play with our expectations.
Okay, time for a quiz time challenge on idioms and proverbs.
All right, let's see what you've got.
First question. Which verb is correct? The cats jumps over the fence, or the cats jump over the fence?
Well, the subject is plural cats, so the verb needs to agree. It should be the cats jump over the fence.
Okay, next one. What does the idiom spill the beans mean?
Oh, I love that one. It means to reveal a secret, often unintentionally.
And for our final question, let's complete this proverb. Don't count your chickens before
A
they...
classic reminder not to get ahead of ourselves.
That's it for quiz time. We're on a roll with these language challenges.
We're making great progress, but we've got a lot more to cover in this deep dive. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the fascinating world of language. Welcome back to our exploration of language. We're ready to dive into topic 5, tricky verb tenses, commas, and apostrophes.
Ooh, verb tenses. Those can be tricky indeed, especially those irregular verbs that don't follow the usual patterns.
It's true, they often require a bit of memorization. For instance, the guide asks, think about this. What's the past tense of think? It's thought, not thinked.
Right. Irregular verbs are like those quirky friends who always keep you on your toes. And then there's the present perfect tense, which the guide reminds us shows an action that began in the past but continues to the present.
Exactly. It uses has or have, plus the past participle like, I have eaten breakfast, or she has lived here for 10 years. To practice, try describing something you've learned recently using the present perfect tense.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll have to think about that. Now let's not forget about those tiny but mighty punctuation marks, commas and apostrophes. They might seem small, but they can make a big difference in clarity and meaning.
Absolutely. Commas help us avoid ambiguity, especially in lists and compound sentences. Imagine reading a sentence like, I went to the store, bought milk, bread, and cheese without any commas. It's a jumbled mess.
Right. Those little pauses can make all the difference. And apostrophes show possession or contractions. Remember, it's shows possession, while its is a contraction of it is. The guide offers a helpful reminder. Its is possessive, just like his or hers, while its always means it is.
Great tip. Now, are you ready for the quiz time challenge on these tricky topics? First question. What's the past tense of fly?
Another irregular verb. The past tense of fly is flew. Sometimes those irregular verbs feel like they have their own secret code.
Indeed they do. Question 2. Add commas to this sentence. I like to eat pizza, ice cream, and candy.
Okay, to make this list clear and readable, we need to add commas. I like to eat pizza, ice cream, and candy. Much better.
And finally, question 3. Which is correct? The dog wagged its tail. Or the dog wagged its tail.
The correct one is the dog wagged its tail because it shows possession without needing an apostrophe.
You're a comma and apostrophe master. Now on to topic 6. Prepositions, adverbs, abbreviations, and acronyms.
Prepositions, adverbs. It's like we're revisiting those grammar fundamentals with a fresh perspective.
That's the beauty of this deep dive. It's all about layering knowledge and building a deeper understanding of how language works. The guide challenges us to create sentences using prepositions like toward, through, and between.
These are those words that show relationships between other words in a sentence. For example, I walked toward the library, through the park, and stopped between two tall trees. See, prepositions are everywhere.
They are indeed. And then we have adverbs, those words that describe verbs, adjectives, or even other adverbs. They add detail and nuance to our sentences.
The guide points out that many adverbs end in -telity and asks us to think about how we could use adverbs to describe how someone sings in the sentence. She sings. What comes to mind for you?
We could say she sings beautifully, she sings softly, or she sings enthusiastically, each adverb adding a different flavor to the verb sings.
Exactly. Adverbs are like those spice jars in our language pantry. They add flavor and depth. Now let's talk about those handy shortcuts, abbreviations and acronyms.
They streamline our communication, making it more concise and efficient. The guide asks us to list some common abbreviations we see around, like Mr., Doctor, or Saint.
Oh, I see etc. all the time, short for etc., which means and so on. It's a handy abbreviation when you don't want to list
A
everything.
good one. And acronyms like NASA are formed from the first letters of a group of words and pronounced as a word.
Do you know that the word laser is actually an acronym? It stands for Light Amplification by Stimulated Emission of Radiation. Quite a mouthful.
It's amazing how these shortened forms become so ingrained in our language that we forget their origins. Speaking of acronyms and abbreviations, are you ready for the quiz time challenge? First question. Identify the adverb in this sentence. He speaks loudly.
That would be loudly describing how he speaks.
Correct. Question 2. What does the abbreviation etc. stand for?
As we discussed earlier, it stands for etc., meaning and so on.
And last but not least, question 3. Is SCUBA an acronym or an abbreviation?
SCUBA is an acronym because it's pronounced as a word, and it stands for Self-Contained Underwater Breathing Apparatus. It's a good example of how acronyms can become words in their own right.
You're right on track. Let's move on to topic 7. Adjectives, past continuous tense, and future continuous tense.
Adjectives. Those are the words that add color and detail to our language, helping us paint vivid pictures with our words.
They modify nouns, providing more information about their qualities or characteristics. The guide encourages us to describe our house using 5 adjectives, a fun way to flex those descriptive muscles.
I might describe my house as cozy, spacious, sunny, welcoming, and of course, book-filled. What about you?
I'd say mine is peaceful, bright, airy, inviting, and full of plants. A little oasis in the city. Now let's shift gears to verb tenses, specifically the past continuous and future continuous tenses.
The past continuous tense describes an action that was ongoing at a specific time in the past, using was or were plus ing. For example, I was eating dinner when the phone rang.
Exactly. It paints a picture of an action unfolding in the past. And the future continuous tense describes an action that will be in progress at a specific time in the future using will be plus ing. For example, I will be sleeping when you arrive.
It's all about those actions stretching out over time, whether in the past or the future. Now let's put our knowledge to the test with the quiz time challenge. Question 1. Identify the adjective in this sentence. The fluffy cat slept.
Fluffy is the adjective describing the cat's fur.
Right. Question 2. What tenses were playing?
Were playing is in the past continuous tense describing an action in progress in the past.
And finally, question 3. Form the future continuous tense of she danced tomorrow night.
The future continuous tense would be she will be dancing tomorrow night.
Great! I feel like we're becoming verb tense experts ready to explore more linguistic treasures.
Let's dive into topic 8. Alliteration, assonance, and consonants, abstract and collective nouns, and present continuous tense. This one's jam-packed.
I love how this guide combines different elements of language, from sound devices to types of nouns to verb tenses. It's like a linguistic buffet.
It is. We'll start with those delightful sound devices that add rhythm and musicality to language, alliteration, assonance, and consonants.
Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words, like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. It's so playful.
It is. And assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds within words like the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. It creates a sense of internal rhyme and flow.
And then there's consonants, which is the repetition of consonant sounds within or at the end of words like Mike likes his bike. These sound devices, even when subtle, add so much texture and depth to language.
They really do. Now let's shift gears to nouns. We have abstract nouns, which name ideas, qualities, or feelings that we can't see or touch, like love, happiness, or courage.
And then there are collective nouns, which name groups of things, like a flock of birds, or herd of cows, or, as the guide points out, a pride of lions. Those collective nouns are so evocative.
They are. They paint a picture of the group as a whole, with its own unique identity. And lastly, let's revisit the present continuous tense, which we touched on earlier. It describes an action happening right now using is, am, or are plus ing, like I am studying.
It's the tense of the present moment, capturing actions as they unfold. Are you ready for the quiz time challenge on these diverse topics? First question, what literary device is used in She Sells Seashells by the Seashore?
That's a classic example of alliteration with the repetition of the S sound. It's so catchy.
Question 2, is happiness an abstract or concrete noun?
Happiness is an abstract noun because it's a feeling, not something we can physically touch.
And finally, question 3, what is the present continuous tense of eat?
Depending on the subject, it would be is eating, am eating, or are eating. For example, I am eating, he is eating, or they are eating. See how the verb changes to agree with the subject.
It's all about those grammatical agreements. I'm feeling more and more confident in our language skills with every topic we cover.
That's the power of revisiting the fundamentals. It's like polishing those language tools until they shine.
This deep dive has been a fascinating journey so far, and we still have more linguistic terrain to explore.
We're just getting warmed up. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll delve into even more intriguing aspects of language.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're on the final leg of our journey through this fascinating world of language. I'm so excited to see what else this study guide has in store for us.
Me too. We've uncovered so many interesting insights already, and I have a feeling there are even more linguistic gems waiting to be discovered.
All right, let's jump into topic 9. Metaphors and similes, types of sentences. I'm really intrigued by these figures of speech. They add so much color and depth to language.
They really do. A metaphor creates a direct comparison between two things, saying one thing is another thing.
Like life is a journey.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to convey a complex idea in a concise and memorable way. And then we have similes, which use like or as to make a comparison.
So like, he's as strong as an ox.
Perfect example. Similes create a vivid image in the reader's mind, helping them understand the comparison more fully. And, the guide actually encourages us to try our hand at creating our own metaphors and similes. It asks us to come up with a metaphor for a busy street and a simile for a quiet library.
Ooh, that's a fun challenge. Okay, for a busy street, I might say something like, the street was a raging river of noise and motion.
I love that. So full of energy and movement. What about the quiet library?
Maybe the library was as peaceful as a sleeping cat.
Beautiful. It evokes such a sense of tranquility. Okay, moving on to types of sentences. We've got declarative sentences, which are just statements of fact.
Like the sky is blue.
Exactly. Then we have interrogative sentences, which ask questions.
Why is the sky blue?
Perfect. Imperative sentences give commands.
Like go outside and look at the sky.
And lastly, exclamatory sentences express strong emotions.
Like, wow, the sky is so blue today.
Those exclamation points really add that extra oomph. All right, are you ready for another round of quiz time?
Hit me with it.
Okay, first question is, he is a walking encyclopedia, a metaphor or a simile?
That's a metaphor. It's making a direct comparison without using like or as.
You got it. Next question, what type of sentence is, what time is it?
That's an interrogative sentence. It's asking for information.
Okay, last one. Write an exclamatory sentence about your favorite food.
I think I'll let our listeners use their imaginations for that one.
Sounds good to me. Moving on to topic 10, relative and reflexive pronouns. These little words can be tricky, but they play a vital role in sentence structure.
Relative pronouns like who, which, and that connect clauses, giving us more information about a noun.
Like, the book that I borrowed from the library is overdue.
Right. And reflexive pronouns like myself or himself refer back to the subject of the sentence.
The guide emphasizes using these correctly. It says, he gave the gift to myself is incorrect. It should be, he gave the gift to himself, because the pronoun needs to reflect the subject.
Okay, pronoun quiz time. First question. Identify the relative pronoun in the sentence. The car which I bought is red.
The relative pronoun is which. It's connecting that extra bit of information about the car.
Okay, second question. Complete the sentence with a reflexive pronoun. She looked at in the mirror.
The answer is herself. The action of looking is reflected back to the subject, she.
And last question. Is who a relative or reflexive pronoun?
Who is a relative pronoun. It introduces a clause that tells us more about a person.
Great. Now on to topic 11. Degrees of comparison. This is all about comparing things using adjectives and adverbs.
Right. We have the positive degree, which is just the basic form of the adjective or adverb, like tall.
Then there's the comparative degree, which compares two things. Taller.
And finally, the superlative degree, which compares three or more things. Tallest.
The guide points out that good has irregular comparative and superlative forms. Better and best. Always good to remember those.
They can be tricky. Ready for a comparison quiz?
Bring it on.
Okay, first question. What is the comparative form of small?
Smaller. Simple enough.
Next question. What is the superlative form of beautiful?
Most beautiful.
And lastly, which degree of comparison is tallest?
That's the superlative degree.
Yeah,
It's indicating the greatest height.
you're a comparison pro. All right, moving on to topic 12. Infinitives, homophones, statements, questions, and commands.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. But don't worry, we'll break it down. First up, infinitives. Those are to plus the base form of the verb.
Like to eat, to sleep, to dream.
Exactly. The guide encourages us to think about how infinitives can function as nouns, adjectives, and even adverbs.
They're more versatile than I thought.
And then we have homophones.
Yeah.
Those tricky words that sound alike but have different spellings and meanings.
Like there, and there.
Those can trip up even the most experienced writers. And lastly, we have the different types of sentences. Statements, questions, and commands.
The cat is sleeping is a statement. Is the cat sleeping is a question. Wake up the cat is a command.
Each type of sentence has a specific function in communication. Okay, quiz time on these multifaceted topics. First question. Choose the correct homophone. I want to go to the park.
The correct homophone is to the park.
Next question is the sun is shining. A statement, question, or command.
That's a statement. It's simply stating a fact.
And last one, rewrite go to bed as a question.
How about, do you want me to go to bed?
Perfect. Okay, we're making good progress. Let's move on to topic 13, revision, homonyms, homophones, antonyms, and synonyms.
So we're revisiting some familiar concepts here, but repetition is key to learning, right?
Absolutely. So homonyms are words that are spelled and pronounced the same but have different meanings.
Like bat, which can be the animal or the thing you use in baseball.
Exactly. And homophones, as we've already discussed, sound alike but have different spellings and meanings. Then we have antonyms, which are words with opposite meanings, like hot and cold.
And synonyms, which are words with similar meanings, like happy and joyful.
These word relationships can really help us expand our vocabulary and express ourselves more precisely. Quiz time on word relationships. First question. What is the antonym of start?
The opposite of start could be end, finish, or even stop.
All good options. Next question. What is a synonym for big?
Oh, there's so many. Large, huge, enormous, gigantic.
I love how many ways there are to say the same thing in English. Last question. Are deer expensive and deer animal homonyms or homophones?
They're homophones. They sound the same but have different spellings and meanings.
Correct. Okay, ready for a fun one. Topic 14, oxymoron.
Ooh, oxymorons. They always make me smile. They're those figures of speech that combine contradictory terms.
Like jumbo shrimp or living dead.
It's like they're defying logic.
Exactly. And the guide challenges us to create our own oxymorons. What about organized chaos or bittersweet symphony?
Those are great. Okay, time for an oxymoron quiz. First question.
Yeah.
Is deafening silence an oxymoron?
Absolutely. Silence should be quiet, not deafening.
Okay, next one. Identify the oxymoron in this sentence. He told a seriously funny joke.
The oxymoron is seriously funny. It's a contradiction, but it works.
And finally, create your own oxymoron.
I'll let our listeners take on that challenge. Onward to topic 15, conditional clauses and syllabification.
Conditional clauses are those if-then statements that explore possibilities and consequences.
Like, if I study hard, I will pass the test.
And syllabification is all about breaking words down into those pronounceable units. Syllables.
Like elephant, 3 syllables. Okay, quiz time on clauses and syllables. First question. Identify the conditional clause in this sentence. If you study hard, you will do well.
The conditional clause is, if you study hard, it sets up the condition for the result.
Correct. Second question. How many syllables are in the word computer?
Computer, 3 syllables.
And finally, Create a sentence using the word unless to form a conditional clause.
I'll leave that one to our listeners. Now on to topic 16, active and passive voice, direct and indirect speech. This is about how we structure sentences to convey different perspectives.
In active voice, the subject performs the action. The cat chased the mouse. It's clear and direct. In passive voice, the object of the action is emphasized. The mouse was chased by the cat.
The guide points out that passive voice is useful when the doer of the action is unknown or unimportant, like, the cake was eaten.
Exactly. And then we have direct and indirect speech. Direct speech reports the exact words someone said. He said, "I love cake."
And indirect speech reports what someone said without using quotation marks. He said that he loved cake. Notice how the tense and pronouns change.
It's a subtle but important distinction. Okay, time for a quiz on voice and speech. First question. Is this sentence active or passive? The letter was written by John.
That's passive voice. The focus is on the letter being written, not on John doing the writing.
Correct. Next question. Rewrite the sentence in indirect speech. She said, "I am going to the store."
That would be, she said that she was going to the store.
And last question. Rewrite the sentence in active voice. The window was broken by the ball.
Okay, the active voice version would be, the ball broke the window.
You nailed it. And finally, we've reached topic 17. Clauses, definite and indefinite articles, negative forms, stems, suffixes, and prefixes. This section brings together so many of the concepts we've covered in this deep dive.
It's like the grand finale.
Exactly. So we're revisiting clauses, those groups of words with a subject and a verb. Independent clauses can stand alone as sentences, while dependent clauses need to be attached to an independent clause.
Then we have definite and indefinite articles, those little words like the, a, and an, that tell us whether we're talking about a specific noun or any noun of that type.
And the negative form uses not or no to express negation. Remember, no double negatives.
And lastly, those building blocks of words. Stems, suffixes, and prefixes. We can add a prefix to the beginning, a suffix to the end, or even change the stem to create new words.
Time for our final quiz. First question. What is the negative form of I am going?
I am not going. Easy.
Next question. Is a definite or indefinite article?
A is an indefinite article. It can refer to any member of a category.
And last question. What is the stem of the word rewrite?
The stem is right. It's the root of the word.
You aced it. You've successfully navigated the intricacies of language.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey, revealing the hidden depths and fascinating complexities of language. And to think it all started with a simple study guide for an 11-year-old.
It just goes to show that language is a constantly evolving system full of surprises and endless possibilities for exploration.
I encourage all of our listeners to keep playing with words, exploring their nuances, and appreciating the power they hold to shape our thoughts and connect us with the world around us.
And remember, even the most basic concepts can spark new insights and discoveries if we approach them with curiosity and a willingness to learn. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of language.